Today, we are going to discuss the latest developments in the murder case of Gannon Stauch. Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome to the Missing Link channel. Each true crime case and unsolved mystery is just one missing link away from being solved. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video and help us find that missing link. Before we even begin discussing what has happened in this case, I will remind everyone that a defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Our criminal justice system relies on this fact. Everyone deserves a fair trial. The system must work to protect us all. That being said, I did a 3-part series in May of 2020 about the murder of Gannon. In those videos, we discussed the affidavit from the police, statements of the family, neighbors, and Leticia herself. We had to speculate on areas where we do not have exact evidence yet. Not that evidence doesn't exist, but we may just not know it yet. The police have not turned over everything. Unfortunately, Gannon cannot speak for himself, so the evidence must speak for him and help the police try to determine what happened to Gannon. Gannon deserves nothing less. He deserves justice, whatever that may be. He deserves peace. If you haven't watched my previous videos on this case, I will put a link to video 1 above. In this video, we won't discuss much about the actual case itself or the details surrounding Gannon's disappearance. Instead, we are going to discuss what has been going on with this case over the last year. But let's recap what happened to Gannon. Monday, January 27th, 2020, Gannon stayed home from school because he was not feeling well. He stayed home with his stepmother, Leticia. His father, Al, was in the National Guard and he had training in Oklahoma that weekend. A neighbor had a surveillance camera outside his home, so we know the movements from that day. Leticia and Gannon got into her truck about 10:16 a.m. and drove away. 4 hours later, at 2:19 p.m., Leticia arrived back at home, but Gannon didn't appear to be with her. At 6:55 p.m., Leticia called 911. She claimed that Gannon went to a friend's house and never returned home. Eventually, the home was searched and Gannon's blood was found in many areas, including his room and in the garage. Leticia eventually left town. 5 weeks after Gannon went missing, she was arrested in South Carolina. Gannon's body hadn't been located at that time. However, on March 20th, 53 days after his disappearance, Gannon's remains were found in Florida. His body was found in a suitcase under a bridge. Gannon was an innocent 11-year-old boy who was brutally murdered. Did the person who was supposed to protect him end up murdering him? Let's go back to March 2nd, when Leticia was arrested in South Carolina and was extradited to Colorado. She appeared in court in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She waived extradition to Colorado. Deputies picked her up and started the drive back to Colorado. At one point, she slipped out of her handcuffs and attacked a deputy. The deputy even had to stop in Salina, Kansas, book Leticia in a county jail there, and the deputy received some sort of medical treatment. This wouldn't be the last time that Leticia tried to escape police custody. On March 5th, Al Stauch, Gannon's father, filed dissolution of marriage papers. This was 3 days after Leticia was arrested for the murder of his son Gannon. On March 11th, Leticia Stauch was formally charged with the murder of Gannon. On March 18th, Gannon's body was discovered in a suitcase under a bridge in Florida. On April 3rd, the police affidavit, which was previously sealed, was leaked. We went over this affidavit in detail in the previous videos. This affidavit told us a lot of the evidence that had been found in the case and told what the police believed happened that day of Gannon's disappearance. In May of 2020, she wrote 3 letters to another inmate that discussed her plans to escape the jail. She seemed to be asking the other inmate to assist her in the escape. Her plans were to break a window in her cell with a broom and escape out that window. The letter even included a drawing of her escape plans. One of the letters was apparently written to her daughter. Maybe the other inmate was supposed to somehow get this letter in the mail to Leticia's daughter. The other inmate turned the letters over to the authorities. Leticia was then charged with solicitation to commit escape. I know she isn't the sharpest pencil in the drawer, but why would you put this in writing? How long did Leticia know this other inmate before writing her letters about escaping? Plus, what did she think would happen after she broke the window and climbed outside? My guess is she wouldn't have gotten far. I am guessing guards keep an eye on the grounds of the jail, and I would also guess there would be a barbed wire fence surrounding the jail. Originally, the preliminary hearing was set for June 5th and June 8th. However, this was delayed when the judge ordered that Leticia Stauch be evaluated to see if she was competent enough to stand trial for these charges. Leticia would be transferred to a state mental health facility for evaluation by a state psychiatrist. This individual would deem whether or not she was competent to stand trial. I found a great description of what competent to stand trial means and how it is determined on the website justia.com. Here is what their word-for-word explanation of what competency to stand trial means. A defendant cannot be convicted of a crime if they are not mentally competent to stand trial. This would violate constitutional protections for defendants by denying them the right to a fair trial. Competency involves being able to understand the proceedings and play a role in their defense. A lack of competency forms a roadblock to a trial and conviction, regardless of how strong the prosecution's evidence may be. It does not prevent the police from making an arrest or the prosecution from filing charges, but the proceedings cannot go further until and unless the defendant is found to be competent. Moreover, a defendant or their attorney cannot waive the issue of competency. An important distinction to understand is that a competency determination applies to the defendant's current mental state rather than their mental state at the time of committing the alleged crime. Thus, it is different from a defense, such as insanity. Incompetency to stand trial is not a defense to the underlying crime. The proceedings can continue normally once the defendant becomes competent again. Here is how this website describes determining competency. Not every mental health condition automatically means that a defendant is incompetent to stand trial. A judge will evaluate competency on a case-by-case basis, usually with the assistance of psychologists. A judge will need to determine competency early in the process, as soon as it is raised. Either the prosecution or the defense may raise the issue, and the judge also can raise it on their own if either side does not. They may observe signs of incompetency from the defendant's behavior if they do not appear to understand basic elements of the proceedings. Competency will be decided at a hearing on the defendant's fitness to stand trial. A judge likely will rely heavily on the opinion of the psychologists, but they can take their own observations into account. They can consider the defendant's ability to understand the charges, understand the penalties they may be facing, make decisions, and communicate with their attorneys, among other indicators. The case against Leticia was stopped until the competency evaluation could be completed. Leticia did give an interview in January 2020 before she left town after Gannon's disappearance. It was a very odd interview, and she didn't face the camera. We could only see the face of the news reporter. We could see the back of Leticia's head, her sunglasses, and portions of her hair. She definitely sounded competent during this interview. She seemed very aware of what was going on around her and the criminal justice system. She talked about how, during her police interview, that she asked to speak with an attorney. She seemed to know her rights at that time. She talked a lot about herself in that interview. Even though Gannon was still missing, she seemed to be more worried about her own reputation than Gannon. We never saw her face during this interview. On August 14th, 2020, a memorial service was held for Gannon in Colorado. Al, Gannon's father, spoke at the memorial. I will put a link to the full video of the memorial below. Gannon's father spoke eloquently about his son and stated, "I just wish my angel wasn't in heaven." He also stated about learning about Gannon's death. "I'd been looking forward to his teenage years and the fun we had ahead of us as he became a young man. My little boy is not coming home. We will never play Nintendo again. No more Taco Tuesdays. No more smooth-looking haircuts. No more Big Bubba for Mylena. And no more G-Man for the world." I can't imagine the pain and anguish his father, mother, sister, extended family, and friends must be going through. Let's go back to Leticia in jail. In September 2020, she wrote a 4-page handwritten letter to the judge. She claimed that she was receiving death threats in jail and was being mistreated in jail as well. She claimed that her constitutional rights were being violated. She explained about physical and emotional abuse by other inmates and jail staff. She even gave one example that she received a death threat in her peanut butter sandwich. She denied the charges against her, but never once in the 4 pages did she mention Gannon's name. However, there is not much the judge can do in this situation. Her attorney would be the ones to help her if she was being mistreated or threatened in jail. They would need to speak to someone in charge at the jail, perhaps the head jailer. On September 8th, the state psychiatrists gave their findings to the court regarding Leticia's competency. The psychiatrist found that Leticia Stauch was competent to stand trial. The defense then asked for their evaluation by a psychiatrist of their choosing. This definitely slowed down the process. It took until January 19th, 2021 for the second evaluation to be completed and for the findings to be presented to the judge. The defense psychiatrist also deemed that Leticia was competent to stand trial, so the court deemed her competent as well, finally allowing for the next step to be taken in this case. Not only did determining Leticia's competency slow down the proceedings, COVID didn't help the case progress either. In 2020, courtrooms were shut down. However, sometime in 2020, trials were allowed to proceed in the courtrooms of Colorado. In February 2021, it was believed that Leticia was going to ask for new attorneys. At that point, she had 2 public defenders, but instead, at that hearing, she asked to represent herself. It is very unusual for a defendant, especially in such a high-profile crime, and one where she faces life in prison, to ask to represent oneself. The judge explained what this truly means and made sure that Leticia knew exactly what she was getting into. Leticia made it clear that she wanted to represent herself. She explained that she liked her attorneys, but felt that she could do a better job representing herself. She may be a little overconfident, if you ask me. She told the judge that she had 2 pieces of evidence that will clear her. We will get into this a little later. The judge appointed advisory counsel to help advise Leticia why she represents herself. There is no way she will be able to review all the evidence against her. Her case file is huge. There is 26,101 pages in her case file. I don't know how she will ever get through that, including numerous photos, videos, and so much more. The El Paso County District Attorney said Leticia will have an uphill battle. She has no knowledge about the rules of evidence, how to question a witness, or conduct a trial. Every defendant has a right to effective assistance of counsel. Of course, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you by the courts. By representing herself, she is also giving up a future possible appeal of ineffective assistance of counsel. Many defendants, after they are convicted, will appeal their conviction based on ineffective assistance of counsel. The Show House California Law Group provides a great description of ineffective assistance of counsel on their website. They explain that ineffective assistance of counsel is a claim asserted by a criminal defendant that the defense attorney failed to perform in a reasonable, competent manner. This violates the rights to an effective counsel and thus a fair trial, as guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution. A successful claim of ineffective assistance of counsel can be the grounds to overturn a conviction and or vacate a sentence. The law states that attorneys perform ineffectively if 1. Their performance was unreasonable under the circumstances, and 2. The performance prejudiced the defendant. Examples of a lawyer's incompetence can include his or her failure to adequately investigate and prepare for a case, raise certain motions, object to improper testimony, address concerns about potential prosecution or jury misconduct. There are 3 remedies if a court finds that a counsel was ineffective. Depending on when the ineffectiveness occurs in a case, a court may 1. Appoint a new defense counsel. 2. If a trial concluded, reverse any guilty verdict and order a new trial. Or 3. Vacate a sentence and resentence the defendant. By representing herself, Leticia gives up this constitutional right. Now, let's look into what could be the 2 pieces of key evidence that Leticia claims will clear her name. She acts like she has a silver bullet, but I am curious what that could be, or if she is just making it up. But if she does have something, then why did she keep changing her story? Why did she lie about what happened that day? Why wouldn't she have told the truth from the beginning? Would you really stay in jail for over a year if you had actual evidence that could get you released? Why wouldn't she have told the police or her attorneys a long time ago? She has stated before that she is covering up for Al, Gannon's father, and she says that he is guilty of manslaughter. But let's look into this and see if it is even possible. Gannon's father, Al, left for National Guard training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma on Saturday, January 25th, 2020. He was gone from January 25th to January 28th, which was a Saturday through a Tuesday. There seems to be no evidence that Gannon was injured, especially fatally injured, before Al left. The day after Al left was Sunday, January 26th. As discussed in the first video, it was a nice, mild day in Colorado, with above temperatures around 52 degrees. Various neighbors heard Gannon and his little sister playing outside. There are videos showing them playing as well. Later that afternoon, Leticia, Gannon, and Gannon's little sister ended up going hiking at the Garden of the Gods. Various people came forward saying they saw them around 3:30 p.m., and they were actually in the background of other people's photos. There is a photo that was taken of Gannon that day. If Al had injured Gannon before he left, how did Gannon play outside? How did he go hiking? And how did he smile in that photo? If he was fatally injured before Al left town, then how were any of these events possible? The prosecution and the police affidavit stated that a violent event occurred in their home. There was likely presence of blood in Gannon's room, from the hallway to the utility room in the basement, the staircase, the path to the garage from the stairs, and in the garage itself. There was blood everywhere in Gannon's room, on the walls, the mattress, the carpet pad, and the concrete below. There was blood spattered on the walls, and even inside the electrical outlet cover. The vast majority of the blood on the mattress was in a position where your head or torso would be if you were laying down. Preliminary blood spatter reports say the stains on the wall were consistent with one or more blood spatter producing events. This could be a gunshot, blunt force trauma, or a stabbing. The blood was tested, and Gannon's DNA was found in his bedroom and in the garage. Someone even attempted to clean the wall and room, and multiple carpet brushes were found in the dishwasher. So if Leticia is telling the truth about Al actually being the person that injured Gannon, how is this possible? I just don't see how this could be possible. There is no way that Gannon was fatally injured before Saturday when Al left and still walked around on Monday to be seen on the neighbor's video surveillance cameras. Leticia also claims that her private investigator knows who really committed the crime. I also wonder what story Leticia will stick with in court, because she can't keep changing her story. She can't say, this is what happened, but then say, if you don't like that story, maybe you'll like this one. Remember, in the previous videos, we talked about how many times Leticia changed her story. Her first claim was what she told police when she called 911 that night, that Gannon left about 3:15 p.m. for a friend's house and he never returned home that night. Later, she changed the story again, claiming that Gannon was kidnapped. Leticia claimed that when she and Gannon arrived back home that Monday at 2:30 p.m., she was held at gunpoint by a Hispanic man named Eduardo. She claims he raped her and hit her on the head, and she lost consciousness. She also claimed that when Gannon jumped on the attacker's back, this individual threw Gannon across the room. Then this man demanded a suitcase. Leticia claimed she gave him a cardboard box and a brown suitcase. She claims he hit her head and she blacked out. Her stories kept getting more outrageous. One included Gannon falling off his bike and hitting his head. Another was that Gannon burned himself on a candle and wiped blood on the walls. Another was that he had a nosebleed in his room. And yet another that he cut his foot in the garage. She talked about blood evidence before the evidence was released by the police. She knew things only the murderer would know, or someone that was there when the murder was committed. She was coming up with excuses of why later evidence would be found. Leticia already stated that she will waive bond. I think she realizes that there is no way she would be released on bond. There are a few reasons for this. The fact that she left town after Gannon went missing, her previous escape attempts, and the details surrounding the crime itself. I have also heard that she wanted a change of venue. The current charges she is facing is murder in the first degree, child under 12 in a position of trust, first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, tampering with physical evidence, and 8 counts of crimes of violence. The preliminary hearing was supposed to be March 11th through March 12th and possibly spilling into the 15th. This would be a probable cause hearing. It was expected to last more than one day. We will learn a lot from that preliminary hearing. We may hear things that are not public knowledge. The prosecution will lay out the full details of what they believe happened and why they believe Leticia is guilty of this crime. This hearing will likely provide more details than the affidavit. There is one thing I have always wondered if it will come out in a later hearing. So when Leticia claimed that Gannon was kidnapped, she told the police that she gave this kidnapper a cardboard box and a brown suitcase. Well, we know that the brown suitcase was found because Gannon's body was found in it. But I always wondered about this cardboard box she claimed she gave this person. If this cardboard box is ever found, is this where pieces of evidence may be? For example, maybe Gannon's Nintendo Switch or other evidence of the crime? I guess we will just have to wait and see. Maybe this evidence has never been found. Maybe this cardboard box that housed that evidence is gone forever. But I've always wondered. It always seemed like Leticia was trying to be one step ahead of the police and trying to explain why certain evidence would be found. She was trying to explain why that suitcase would be found. And I always wondered if this cardboard box that she thought may be found could hold evidence against her. Due to Leticia representing herself, obviously she would only have a small amount of time to prepare for this preliminary hearing. So it has been pushed back to May 20th, 2021. This will give her more time to review all the documents and evidence against her. However, I don't think it matters how much time they give her. Without legal knowledge, it would be hard for anyone to put on a defense in a first-degree murder case. The court ordered that 1,800 pages, which contains core evidence, be given to Leticia on paper. Leticia is facing life in prison without parole if she is convicted. The prosecution recently stated, "We have a long way to go in this case." The fact that the preliminary hearing hasn't even happened yet, COVID, the 2 competency evaluations, and now Leticia representing herself definitely slowed down the progress of this case. I have watched numerous court cases over the years, gavel to gavel. On the original Court TV network, I would watch entire cases. I even remember watching Nancy Grace as a prosecutor. I will definitely be following the preliminary hearing and then later the actual trial. I wonder if cameras will be allowed in the courtroom. Will we be able to watch the trial, gavel to gavel? I will definitely watch the entire proceeding if I am able. I will be very interested to hear what the prosecution said happened the day that Gannon disappeared. I will also be very interested in hearing what the defense will be. I wonder what Leticia will tell the jury and which story she will go with. Gannon's family has been pretty quiet as of late. I pray they get closure in this case. Nothing will bring back Gannon, but hopefully Gannon will get the justice he deserves. I will definitely make additional videos as more updates on the case become available. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button so I know you enjoy hearing about active true crime cases. Also, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified of my future videos. And follow me on social media as well to see what I am working on next. As always, have a wonderful day. Watch out for each other and keep looking for that missing link. Love ya, and see you in my next video.